Well, hello there, and welcome to the Second Life Book Club. My name is Draxtor Dupre, and today is our free for all casual hangout here on Book Club Island number one. On Book Club Island number one at the cafe. So if you watch this on YouTube and you want to hang out and join us, go to the island number one and teleport up to the cafe. Should actually be there automatically because there's a teleporting thingy. Anyways, we have a full house. If the camera could pull back a little bit. Oh, wait a minute. Don't pull back quite, just yet because I do want to point out. I know people have commented on my attire today. They have the attire today has been commented on with messages from, "Wow, you look great, Drex," to "Is something wrong?" to "Did somebody die?" Well, all of those things are appreciated. The concern and the praise. I have this outfit, this very cool suit with the bow tie, nice shirt, nice shoes, because I'm going to a party a little bit later on. I was invited, and I will ask the lady who is turning 85 today, 85 years young. I will ask her if we can all show up, and then we will see. So if you're watching this on YouTube and you want to come to this party, um, let me know. This is the party of Aziza Wolf, who is a wonderful person, and I am allowed to disclose that she turns 85 because her real life alter ego is a public figure, and it's on her Wikipedia page. But anyhow, today we're talking about books. Now, today the loose topic where I hope that people will chime in either in text or in voice here on stage. The topic is mentors, role models, people who inspired us to become readers, people who laid the groundwork for us to become lifelong book nerds, people who appreciate reading for pleasure, who understand that reading can can provide pleasure. Reading reading bills or reading the horrible news in the newspaper or on Twitter sometimes is not a lot of fun, and not a lot of pleasure is derived from it. I'm talking about the teacher, the librarian, the parent who instilled in us this love for reading that helped us also to overcome, maybe possibly difficulties in reading. I mean, we talk about this often here in the book club that people are with issues like dyslexia, that overcame these issues by realizing, wait a minute, if it is worth working extra hard to kind of deal with this what I have, because putting my nose into books is so amazing. Conjuring up these worlds in my mind's eye is so nourishing that I do want to either get help or try to overcome this challenge. Now, I do not want to talk today about, maybe we'll shoot as another show, but this is very negative. I don't want to talk about the obstacles. We all know the obstacles of the barriers to realizing that reading can be intensely pleasurable and nourishing. And one of them can also be teachers, can be bad teachers who kind of shame us. I've heard this story many, many times. Uh, Friends have told me this story, and I've seen it myself when my son was in school with other kids, that there is a teacher who is sort of sometimes outright shaming other kids that they're not fast enough or they're not dedicated enough in learning how to read. Reading is hard to learn. Reading is not something that comes naturally. You have to work on it. And sometimes teachers are not, I think, equipped to pedagogically um, to convey and or have a method that brings people, kids into the fold, really kind of showing them that it is worth sweating through this, because on the other other side of the tunnel. It's always this Shawshank Redemption quote comes up. I don't know if you guys have seen the movie or read the Stephen King story where they escape from prison and the guy says, "We're crawling through a mile full of shit, but we came out clean the other end." So, yeah, this is what I want to talk about today. And let me read a few comments here. Already on YouTube here, we have Nancy Favrodi says Greta Thunberg and Margaret Atwood are her role models. I forgot to say this. An author can also be a role model, or an activist here, Greta Thunberg. They can be role models as well. Anybody can. Um, it's interesting when an author comes up because maybe the author, and please, you know, share your stories, be a little bit specific or elaborate, because I'm interested in how the author has become your mentor. Did you see an interview with this author, right? So, for example, Michael Ende, the author of The Neverending Story, I'm not going to say that the movie is shitty. I revised my opinion. I don't want to offend my American friends, but of course, The Neverending Story as a book is incredible. Michael Ende was in Germany on TV quite a bit, and he has just a really absorbing, awesome personality. And when you see him and you see someone who is so passionate about reading and writing, that might also be something that brings you into the fold. Nancy Favrati says here ADHD. So ADHD can also be an obstacle um, that has to be dealt with. So these challenges are existing. Now, let me see what we have here. Shiloh says, one hero, one role model would be my 5th grade teacher, Mr. Barrett, who read Fahrenheit 451 and encouraged reading to his students. Elaborate, Shiloh. It was really interesting. How did he encourage reading to his students? Because that's really the challenge here. And Fahrenheit 451, I'm assuming he read it out loud, maybe. We had an art teacher who read The Hobbit out loud while we were drawing. So that was very cool. He had a great voice. He was reading it, and we were like, he was just saying to us, like, hey, draw whatever comes to your mind when I'm reading. That was what was it? That was 5th and 6th grade. Shiloh also says, I wrote to James Dietz, archaeologist who was featured in National Geographic, and he wrote back after 3 months. Wrote to him when I was in 5th grade, and he recommended books to me. Wow. So elaborate also here on who James Dietz was or is, and why did you write to him? How did you even come across him? Now, I'm going to start with my story here while we're going back and forth a little bit here of this other person that we're going to the birthday party afterwards. So I hope that this reses. And so yeah, my mother passed away 33 years ago. I made peace with this. Grieving is something that takes time. But in hindsight, of course, when time passes, you realize hard times give you something, help you with resilience. So, but I don't want to talk too much about that aspect. Just today was a day where I reminisced quite a bit because of that birthday. But today is about reading. Now, some of you may know the story that my mother did not like the fact that I got into Conan the Barbarian. And sometimes I joke around a little bit, say like my mom was kind of a snob, an elitist. That's not true. My mom was concerned when I got into this whole Conan thing at the age of, I believe, 13 or 14, and I obsessively bought books. And here is another slide. This is my Conan shelf of the German edition of Conan. And now Conan the Barbarian, we'll get into a little bit background if you're interested, or if nobody else has anything to say. I prepared all this kind of stuff because it is interesting to me. This is my shelf of 1983 editions of Conan, as it was written by the original author Robert E. Howard, and then with all the other authors, some of them quite prominent: Robert Jordan, L. Sprague, the Camp, always mispronounce his name, but a lot of others. Um, and this is an edition of the German Heine Verlag. Now, I'll show you a cover. These are in pristine condition. These are from 1983. And who was on the cover? Arnold Schwarzenegger, because the movie Conan the Barbarian came out in 1982. So Heine put all this edition out with Conan on the cover. And I went to the store, and I think the guys at the local store, it's this store in the suburb of Munich where I grew up, absolutely awesome, this little store. And now I sometimes imagine they go like, "Hey, the Drax kid is coming tomorrow. We gotta get some more Conan books. He's like using all his allowance for these Conan books." And here's another one, Conan der Unbesiegbare. This is by Robert Jordan. So again, these are the original stories. There was never a Conan novel released before Robert E. Howard passed away. He passed away in 1936. Only stories were published in Weird Tales magazine at the time. So he, I don't know if he lived long enough to see this publication, but anyway, so this edition is all with Arnold on the cover. Arnold, of course, said, "I did not play Conan. I am Conan," in an interview back in the day. Lynn Carter, L. Sprague, The Camp. This one, Conan the Freibeute. Now, uh, but we're talking about uh, my mother, and I want to open this to the floor if you had similar experiences. My mother was concerned about the kind of narrative, kind of one-dimensional, you know, uh, I don't know, strong man and very one-dimensional female characters, usually half naked, running around waiting to be rescued. And I guess today you would say my mother was concerned about toxic masculinity that was promoted in the pages of Conan here. Um, Now, of course, I turned out to be fairly well-adjusted adult. I mean, if you disagree, you may direct message me, and I know some people are like, "What, Drax? Are you sure?" But all kidding aside, this concern, I don't want to, make fun of it, because now as a parent, I understand that here, Stranger is putting something here in the local chat. How about the insane levels of violence in those stories? See, this is exactly my point. Uh, there's violence. There's the conflict is resolved through physical violence. Uh, Now, of course, and I don't want to get too far off track here, because we're talking about mentors and we want to keep it positive ultimately. But there is a huge discussion to be had about the level of violence in the real world, in the physical world, and why should it not be reflected in literature. Now, again, my mother's chief concern was that she said this is not literature. She was a big reader. She was a connoisseur of literature, of good prose, of prose that she thought was powerful, and it's her the quality of the language really was the thing. But anyway, it came head to head at one time when all these Conan books were gone. I came back, they were gone. I was maybe 14, um, or 15, and I said, "Where are my Conan books?" Um, Stranger, thank you for putting that in there, because I'm going to read page one of the Tower of the Elephant, and I was actually surprised how good it is. Uh, Robert E. Howard was able to write. We're going to get into Robert E. Howard biography also very briefly. I mean, he was the inventor of this whole genre that is referred to as sword and sorcery genre. But anyway, my mother basically pretended she threw away all my Conan books. So I came home, all the books were gone, and I go like, "Where are all my books?" She said, "Well, I threw them in the garbage." And I go, "What the, mom?" And Well, it turned out she didn't. She pretended she wanted to kind of force this issue, this conversation. And then we had this conversation. Again, I cannot tell you, and she's unfortunately not no longer with us. This is the one big painful thing about losing a parent and not having a parent available when you're an adult yourself, is that you cannot sort of verify certain things, right? Because your memory is, of course, different, and hers or the parents may be may also be not 100% accurate, but then at least you can compare notes. But anyway, she didn't throw them away, and then we had this conversation, and I don't know. I guess I made my case. Um, Now, one other thing here, also what I loved um, was movie tie-in books. So here's my part of the shelf with the movie tie-in books. Now, this is another horror, pun intended, for my parents when I got into horror movies. Some of these are newer here, but for example, The Brood, David Cronenberg. The Brood is an awesome movie. This is the novelization. I love novelizations. Here you see in this red spine with the yellow letters, Das Ding aus einer anderen Welt. That's The Thing. John Carpenter movie, and the novelization is by Alan Dean Foster. This was based on a short story, of course, but this is the novelization by Alan Dean Foster, who's an amazing writer. Also, Alan Dean Foster wrote the novelization of Star Wars. Anyways, a whole bunch of other things here. I don't know why Frankenstein is here on the side, but there's Halloween, Damien, George Romero's Zombie, and then this is a newer one, Cronenberg Existence. But here I'll show you this one from the front. This is a Nightmare on Elm Street. Part one, two, three. Now I was already let's see, part one came out when I was 14. So this my mother didn't have a lot to say anymore because I think I bought this when I was 17 maybe. So I love these books. Pulpy, frowned upon by the literary world, but not by me. So I loved novelizations. Yes, Shiloh, I did read that. Like I said, like I'm saying right now, I loved and still do novelizations. And as a matter of fact, the novelization of Existence, and a lot of really, really good writers actually get these gigs. These gigs are fairly lucrative. For example, Existence is written. No, this is not the one. There is one by Elizabeth Hand. There we go. 12 Monkeys. Great movie. The novelization is written by Elizabeth Hand, who is a seasoned speculative fiction author. Shiloh says you like horror. I think Shiloh is the first time she's been to the show. I guess. Interesting. That question. Good. Well. Yeah. I guess I've never talked about it ever. My absolute obsession with horror. Now, I'm gonna get to these comments in a sec. Now, I want to show you one more thing. Um, let's see here. No, this is the wrong shelf. We're gonna get there. Here's another thing that my mother objected to a little bit as well. This is Alistair MacLean. Now, please raise your hand if you know who Alistair MacLean was. Alistair MacLean was a was he Scottish? Scottish author of crime and thrillers, basically a kind of a Robert Ludlum. He passed away quite some time ago, but he wrote a lot of stuff was made into fantastic movies. Where Eagles Dare with Clint Eastwood, The Guns of Navarone, and I was a big fan. And this was the same sort of discussion. Again, I had a relationship with my mom where we discussed a lot, and I was encouraged to make my case. And she also was a little bit, you know, apprehensive of this kind of stuff because of the very black and white nature of very black and white nature of the conflict. Yeah. And here's another super pulp stuff that I just got from the Little Free Library today. Jerry Cotton, Der Mann, der Polizisten hasste. I had to get that. That was super pulp. Now this is not Alistair MacLean. Alistair MacLean was a great writer, but Jerry Cotton, that you could argue that that is really kind of forgettable. Fast food. This comes out every week here in Germany. This is sort of a an FBI guy. It's interesting the Germans are so obsessed with American heroes. So, but this is all written by a German team. Jessica is aware of. I don't know if you're referring to Alistair MacLean. Okay, so I'm gonna get to a close here, and then I'm gonna read real quick. Alistair MacLean, yeah, Alistair MacLean is absolutely amazing. Again, my mother a little bit critical here in terms of the uh, black and white plot or whatnot, or just thrillers. Now, you ask, what did your mom actually like? My mom liked this, and she encouraged me to read this kind of stuff here. This is Heinrich Böll. Heinrich Böll was a very, very important writer in post-war Germany. He actually won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1972, and today Heinrich Böll is one of my absolute favorite authors of all time. I encourage you to pick up a Böll, and I'm gonna read something from The Clown in a little bit. Uh, you should really pick up The Lost Honor of Katharina Blum, where this is a story from 1974 where Böll talks about a tabloid newspaper that is basically destroying the life of a young woman by alleging she is basically the lover of a terrorist, and she is a terrorist sympathizer. This came out in 1974, The Lost Honor of Katharina Blum. There's also a fantastic movie by Volker Schlöndorff. Um, I can't, unfortunately, if somebody could look that up and put a link in here, because Heinrich Böll is amazing, and that book specifically came out during a time where left-wing terrorism was um, was rampant in Germany, and Heinrich Böll spoke in favor of the imprisoned RAF terrorists. Um, and it was extremely controversial at the time. So he was a controversial figure, but he stood up for the rule of law. He stood up for democracy, as far as I'm concerned. There's a Böll Foundation today that does amazing work, but he was critiqued. The feds raided his apartment and so on and so forth. So if you don't know how to spell Heinrich Böll, look up on the slide, then you'll see it right there. I'm sorry I can't type right now, but you'll find him. So Heinrich Böll, Nobel Prize Literature, 1972, a towering figure who talked about the very critical of post-war Germany, very critical of the amnesia of not coming, not really working through the Nazi history. Fantastic books about people who suppress that period, who want to move on without really working through it, about people who um, come back and just keep their positions of power, who were complicit in the Nazi regime, and incredible writers. So that's Heinrich Böll, and that's who my mother favored. And then of course I became a huge Böll fan. This is his book, The Clown. I'm gonna read in a little bit. Highly recommend The Clown to start with. Another one is The Trains Run on Time, is a great one. So anyway, to end this and go to the reading, thank you, Mom, for introducing me to these people. Here's another one that I love, Max Frisch, I'm Not Stiller. Highly recommend that one. That's a Swiss author. All these the German-speaking authors, German writing authors from post-World War II are tremendously important. I think not only for someone who was brought up in that cultural context, but I think for everyone. And of course, the other one that my mother loved is Thomas Mann. Buddenbrooks is a big one, but it's a fun read. It's an epic about an industrial family that is sort of um, in the throes of self-destruction. Anyways, now if I missed what people wrote about their stories, what stories do you have? Who is your mentor? Put that in a text and put it up, please. Who was your mentor or who is your mentor? And we'll get at least one person to come up on stage in a little bit. Who was your mentor? Who is your role model in terms of reading, in terms of acquiring, understanding the importance of reading? And now I'm facing the audience. Whoa, we got a full house here. So many new people. Hello, Kia. Hello, Danielle, Woola, Rosie Helndale, Anne Rice. Oh, wait, it's Aless typing Anne Rice. You're like, what? Anne Rice is here. She came back. Awesome. It's like, oh, or somebody changed their display name to Anne Rice. So anyway, Jim Rain and Vince, hello. Now, Stranger Nightfire just said that Robert E. Howard, the creator of Conan the Barbarian, was actually not so bad in terms of prose. Okay, and let's see how good he was. I'm going to read the first page of this the Conan Chronicles. This is the completed stories of Conan. It's volume 1, The People of the Black Circle, and this is from The Tower and the Elephant, coming right up. Very briefly, who was Robert E. Howard? Robert E. Howard was born in Texas. He lived a fairly short life. He committed suicide in 1936 at the age of 30, probably because his mother was in a coma, and I don't know if she had died at this point, but he could not bear her being so sick. And Robert E. Howard was writing across all sorts of genres. So he wrote westerns, all sorts of things, and they were published in Weird Tales. There was another magazine called Oriental Tales. Um, and like I said before, Conan, there was never a novel published in his lifetime. It was all just in these magazines, and just so cool. I don't have a slide for the magazines right now, but I love those magazines. The, the covers. I mean, they really appeal to me. Um, Now Conan came about in 1930, 34, 32, I believe. Please correct me if I'm wrong. And that's where Robert E. Howard created that fictional continent. Um, it was actually a former version of Earth um, in the Hyborian Age. I'm not a Conan scholar. Don't at me. Strangers talking about Clark Ashton Smith. Tell us who Clark Ashton Smith was. Clark Ashton Smith. Oh my God. Um, Clark Ashton Smith. I lived in the same town where he lived, and there's a Clark Ashton Smith house, and I'm not kidding you. Clark Ashton Smith's house has 2 gigantic gargoyles. It's an awesome house. I'm not going to tell you where it is because then you know where you know where to find me. But let's read from Conan, shall we? Oh, Stranger, before that, Stranger, are you, Sai, are there Conan scholars? Are you kidding me? Of course there are. There are scholars for everybody. A matter of fact, our guest, what's his name? Damon Young from Australia, philosopher, author of 15 philosophy books. He's a huge Conan fan. So anyway, you ready? Shall I read? Gonna read here, page 1, until I find paragraph. Okay, here we go. The Tower of the Elephant. And I'm gonna read it in a little bit of of the voice that I feel is appropriate for this kind of pulpy stuff. And I guess Strange is also inferring that Clark Ashton Smith was a better stylist than Robert E. Howard. Torches flared murkily on the revels in the mall where the thieves of the East held carnival by night. In the mall, they could carouse and roar as they liked, for honest people shunned the quarters, and watchmen, well paid with stained coins, did not interfere with their sport. Along the crooked, unpaved streets, with their heaps of refuse and sloppy puddles, drunken roisterers staggered, roaring. Steel glinted in the shadows where wolf preyed on wolf, and from the darkness rose the shrill laughter of women and the sounds of scufflings and strugglings. Torchlight licked luridly from broken windows and wide thrown doors, and out of these doors stale smells of wine and rank sweaty bodies, clamor of drinking jacks and fists hammered on rough tables, snatches of obscene songs rushed like a blow in the face. In one of these dens merriment thundered to the low smoke-stained roof where rascals gathered in every stage of rags and tatters, furtive cut purses, leering kidnappers, quick-fingered thieves, swaggering bravos with their wenches, strident-voiced women clad in tawdry finery. Native rogues were the dominant element. Dark-skinned, dark-eyed Samorians with daggers at their girdles and guile in their hearts. But there were wolves of half a dozen outland nations there as well. There was a giant Hyperborean renegade, taciturn, dangerous, with a broadsword strapped to his great gaunt frame. For men wore steel openly. There was a Shemitish counterfeiter with his hook nose, and curled blue-black beard. There was a bold-eyed Brythunian wench sitting on the knee of a tawny-haired gunderman, a wandering mercenary soldier, a deserter from some defeated army, and the fat, gross rogue whose bawdy jests were causing all the shouts of mirth was a professional kidnapper come up from distant Koth to teach women stealing to the Samorians who were born with more knowledge of the art than he could ever attain. This man halted in his description of an intended victim's charms and thrust his muzzle into a huge tankard of frothing ale. Then, blowing the foam from his fat lips, he said, "By Belgood of all thieves, I'll show them how to steal wenches. I'll have her over the Samorian border before dawn, and there'll be a caravan waiting to receive her. 300 pieces of silver, a Count of Ophir promised me for a sleek young Brythunian of the better class. It took me weeks wandering among the border cities as a beggar to find one I knew would suit. And is she a pretty baggage?" He blew a slobbery kiss in the air. "I know lords in Shem who would trade the secret of the Elephant Tower for her," he said, returning to his ale. A touch on his tunic sleeve made him turn his head, scowling at the interruption. He saw a tall, strongly made youth standing beside him. This person was as much out of place in that den as a gray wolf among mangy rats of the gutters. His cheap tunic could not conceal the hard, rangy lines of his powerful frame, the broad, heavy shoulders, the massive chest, lean waist, and heavy arms. His skin was brown from outland suns, his eyes blue and smoldering. A shock of tousled black hair crowned his broad forehead. From his girdle hung a sword in a worn leather scabbard. "You spoke of the Elephant Tower," said the stranger. "I've heard much of this tower. What is its secret?" "The secret of the tower? Why, any fool knows that Yar the priest dwells there with a great jewel men call the elephant's heart. That is the secret of his magic." The barbarian digested this for a space. "I've seen this tower. It's set in a great garden above the level of the city, surrounded by high walls. I've seen no guards. The walls would be easy to climb. Why has not anybody stolen this secret gem?" Okay, I'll stop right here. We get a round of applause. I forgot about the slight you know thinly veiled, not anti-Semitism adjacent stereotypical Jewish stereotypes of a hook-nosed person that is somehow in finances. So I want to also mention that Mr. Robert E. Howard, Jessica says, lovely boy stuff. I was gonna say, I can now imagine my poor mother looking through this and going like, what? What the hell? Like the word they're getting hammered here, and the women and sex trafficking and men wear steel. Yeah. I think what might have helped in sort of making my mother slightly comfortable or a little bit scared of where I was going to go with my life was also at the same time the band Manowar was very popular in the metal scene, and I was also a big Manowar fan, and the covers. Anyways, look that up, folks, if you're not in that field. But anyhow, so that's that. Sex trafficking, anti-Semitism, toxic masculinity, all on one page. But I do love Conan, and Conan to me, yeah, had me reading. It absorbed me. It was a different world. The books all had maps in it. It was just awesome. It was not as convoluted as Lord of the Rings. It was just but anyway, the author, of course, Robert E. Howard, is known also to be very homophobic. He also is a very problematic figure in the circle around H.P. Lovecraft, who was, for all intents and purposes, a yeah, very problematic figure with his racist views. Now, let's do a comparison because I want to read from what my mother deemed fabulous literature, and I am deeming this now. So, this is a little excerpt from Heinrich Böll's The Clown. I'm going to read the blurb in the back, and then I'm going to read page one. So here's what this book is about. Acclaimed entertainer Hans Schneier collapses when his beloved Mary leaves him because he won't marry her within the Catholic Church. The desertion triggers a re-examination of his life, the loss of his sister during the war, the demands of his millionaire father, and the hypocrisies of his mother, who first fought to save Germany from the Jews and then worked for reconciliation afterwards. So again, Böll's themes were very much um, around post-war. I mean, he wrote in post-war Germany, but it was all about coming to grips with the horrible crimes of the Nazi period, the complicity of the general population, the anti-communist insanity of the time as well, um, and like I say, he was a lightning rod for the conservatives who were in power after World War II. He was smeared. There were smear campaigns left and right, and but he left an amazing legacy. So this is page one from The Clown. And before I read again, I would recommend. I know Monkey posted the link here. If you want to read Böll, The Clown is awesome, but also the um, Lost Honor of Katharina Bloom. So here comes The Clown. It was dark by the time I reached Bonn, and I forced myself not to succumb to the series of mechanical actions which had taken hold of me in 5 years of traveling back and forth. Down the station steps, up the station steps, put down my suitcase, take my ticket out of my coat pocket, pick up my suitcase, hand in my ticket, cross over to the newsstand, buy the evening papers, go outside and signal for a taxi. Almost every day for 5 years I had left for somewhere and arrived somewhere. In the morning I had gone up station steps and down again. In the afternoon, down the steps and up again, signaled for a taxi, felt in my pockets for money to pay for my ticket, bought evening papers at kiosks, and savored in a corner of my mind the studied casualness of these mechanical actions. Ever since Marie left me to marry Züpfner, that Catholic, These actions have become more mechanical than ever, but without losing any of their casualness. There is a way of calculating the distance from station to hotel, from hotel to station by the taximeter. 2 marks, 3 marks, 4 marks, 50 from the station. Since Marie has been gone, I have sometimes slipped out of the rhythm and confused the hotel with the station. I would start looking for my ticket as I approached the hotel porter, or ask the ticket collector at the station for my room number. Something fate perhaps must have made me remember my profession and my situation. I'm a clown. Official description: comedian. No church affiliation, 27 years old. And one of my turns is called Arrival and Departure, a long, almost too long pantomime during which the audience confuses arrival and departure all the way through. Since I usually go over this number once more in the train, it consists of over 600 gestures, and I have to know their sequence by heart, of course. It is not unnatural that now and again I fall victim to my own imagination, rush into a hotel, look round for the departure board, find it, run up or down a flight of steps so as not to miss my train, while all I have to do is go to my room and get ready for the performance. Luckily, they know me in most of the hotels. Over a period of 5 years, a rhythm develops with fewer possibilities of variation than one might suppose. Besides, my agent, who is familiar with my idiosyncrasies, sees to it that there is a minimum of friction. What he calls the sensitive soul of the artist is fully respected, and an aura of well being surrounds me as soon as I get to my room. Flowers in an attractive vase, and almost before I have thrown off my coat and tossed my shoes — I hate shoes — into a corner, a pretty chambermaid comes in with coffee and cognac and runs my bath, and the green bath salts she pours into it make it relaxing and fragrant. While I lie in the bathtub, I read the papers, popular ones, all of them, sometimes as many as six, but at least three. In a moderately loud voice, I sing nothing but sacred songs, chorals, hymns, musical passages I recall from my school days. My parents, devout Protestants, subscribed to the post war fashion of denominational tolerance and sent me to a Catholic school. I'm not religious myself, I don't even go to church, and I make use of the sacred texts and songs for therapeutic purposes. They help me more than anything else to overcome the two afflictions nature has saddled me with: depression and headaches. Since Marie went over to the Catholics, although Marie is a Catholic herself, I feel this phrase is appropriate, the intensity of these two complaints has increased. And even the tantum ergo or the litany of Loretto, till now my favorite remedies for pain, are not much use anymore. There is one temporarily effective remedy, though: alcohol. There could be a permanent cure. Marie. Marie has left me. A clown who takes to drink falls faster than a drunk tile layer topples off a roof. And there you go. That's from the clown. Applause. So that's Heinrich Böll for you. So this is actually quite cool, and I'm gonna get off stage and give the stage to Jessica. In closing, I want to say that me reading from the clown while Arnold is still wielding his sword in the slide is actually worth taking a snapshot. And my mother would have loved this. The thesis and the antithesis is made into a synthesis in the best Marxian way possible. So highly recommend the clown. Really goes very deep into the human condition. Yeah, let me put that thing into the ground. And if Jessica wants to come on stage and entertain us with her story. I just hope that your mentor was not your dentist. Was he a reader? I'm going to sit on your chair. So Jessica, who was your who was your mentor, your role model, somebody who you looked up to, somebody who instilled the
Okay,
love?
am I audible?
Yes.
I'm
Yes,
doing a
very good.
sound check. Again, I'm the antithesis to Drax, but my mentor was totally not supposed to be, but was actually my mother. It was all her fault. Uh,
Aha.
I've lived in about 5 or 6 countries, all entirely by accident. And at this point, we were living in the UK, and I was a tiny little thing. I had a little brother. We were free range kids. That means you were put out of the door in the morning and you came back when it was dark. It
Or
was
you didn't
lovely.
come back because you were
Eh,
run over by a truck.
Well, there
Okay.
were none. It was country UK, and it was a very odd place. The house had been a bit bombed out, um, and I was a bright kid. Uh, I was reading incredibly early because I had a grandmother who taught me. Then there was a problem. My mother couldn't read and write. My
Wow.
father could a bit. Life had basically, and wars had wrecked their education, so they had no skills, so they couldn't help
Hmm.
me. Um, so I'm packed off to school, and I'm doing really well because I can read and write and the other kids can't. But I'm not going to go any further. And then life dealt me a good card. The house, as I said, was a bit bombed out. Um,
Sorry, can I interrupt, Jessica? Why couldn't the
mm,
other kids read? Was it because of all this sort of rural setup and the
yeah,
schools were just
basically. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. A lot of them couldn't,
So the
and I
kids were off
could.
to the farm instead of sent to
Some of
school or
them,
something
yeah.
like that?
Um,
Wow.
so we've got a problem. We've got a bright kid, and nobody quite knows what to do with her. The other problem is I'm cold. The heating was one boiler in one room. It was freezing. Freezing, freezing. There was a hole in the roof in my brother's bedroom, so we were all pretty cold. I was the kid that was on the school doorstep at 7:30 in the morning because they had little tiny radiators that pumped hot water around, and I could sit on them and get warm. So I made a little plan. I applied that need to how I got my books. And I wandered around the little town, and it was a tiny historic town, and I found some heated places. One of the heated places was the library.
Mm.
And Carnegie had very kindly donated a library to this town, so it was pretty well stocked. And I trotted in, and the librarian, oh, fine, yeah, come in, come in. I thought she was going to help me, but she didn't.
Mhm.
She just gave me a ticket, said you can have 6 books a week, I think it was, or you can stay here and read whatever you like, or you can bring your schoolwork. Great, I thought. I started at one end of the yellow Golan's science fiction and worked my way to the other end.
Wow.
Nobody supervised me, so I was age 8 reading Aldous Huxley. I read so
Wow.
many inappropriate books. It was wonderful. Word got around about this kid who, was cold. Um, and other people offered me warm places with books. The next one was the museum. They were warm too. And they had a little library. And they were happy for me to go and sit on a radiator and read their books as well. And this just went on. Various places in this little town offered me a network of books. And so I could read anything I
Wow.
wanted unsupervised. Some of it was very unsuitable. Um, and my first major piece of writing was age 7.
Wow.
And everything else I did was pretty unsupervised as well. And someone in the next street had a television. And I saw some kind of black and white American movie. And I really enjoyed it. Double Indemnity. That was what it was called.
Oh, Double Indemnity.
You
That
remember
that's
Double Indemnity? Yeah, good classic. So I went home and I basically wrote the story. It was my first attempt at plagiarism. I wrote the story as a play, and I went to school and I announced that I would like to read my play. And the teacher said, fine. And 25 minutes later, the kids are getting really bored. And the teacher's looking very uncomfortable because I
the
got the
teacher.
last
Yeah.
thing as well, you know. Um, but she thought it was okay. And it just went on from there. But really, the moral of the story is that your mentor doesn't have to be a person. It can be a thing, it can be what drives you. And what drove me was the need to be warm and not have the rain coming in on my head. Later on, I read to my mother, and every morning at breakfast, I read the newspaper to her. I
Mm.
read some of the most disgusting murder trials you can imagine.
Wow. The,
Go
I'm
on.
wondering, would you think that this is something that I think about a lot? It was recently discussed in an interesting documentary about if we're getting smarter or dumber. There is an interesting curve based on IQ tests. I don't want to get too much into it. But if you were today looking for a place that is warm, and you would get offered that place and it would not have books, but I don't know, a PlayStation or a Nintendo Switch, and you were hooked to that, I mean, you wouldn't become a reader.
You might. It's whatever drives the creative urge inside you. I mean,
Yeah.
later on, I found that some of the very peculiar things I was reading now inform my writing. Um, and I write crime, probably because that was what my mother liked me to read to her. She never learnt to read, poor thing. Um, but my father did,
Mhm.
um, and happily ended his life reading books about racehorses.
Mhm.
So he did well there. But it's circumstance. And I think there are going to be a lot of kids growing up now who don't have books,
Mhm.
and a lot of homes that don't have heating.
Mhm.
And there'll be a lot of kids like me. So things have gone full circle. People will find what they need to fire their imagination. And
Yeah,
it'll happen. It'll happen. So you shouldn't worry too much about the kids. Just put them outside and say, off you go.
I'm not worried about the kids. I'm worried about the whole of humanity, Jessica. And after this, I'm gonna send you this documentary, and this pretty much confirms the worries. But I don't want to. I want to keep it positive and a celebration. Um,
I
I'm wondering. I have one more question. I'm wondering, Jessica, do you know why you went to the sci-fi or speculative fiction, or at the time, I don't know what it was called or how it was sorted, the library that you went into Huxley or the Golan's publisher. Um, why do you think you went into that corner and not into another one or
It
a
was
different?
yellow. It was yellow.
Ah.
They were bright egg yellow, those Gollancz books, and they were
Huh.
hardback, and they were just at the right height for me to reach. That's not a
Aha.
problem. I couldn't read anything that was high up. Um, and Huxley was published in some of those series, and they just went along.
Mhm.
It was quite interesting. I went back to that library, but sadly, nearly all the books are gone, which is quite sad now. But they did take a copy of my book, so that's okay.
That is awesome. So your book made it into the library that started you with the reading, and now that is indeed full circle. This is interesting because previous guest Nick Mamatas, I don't know who was here when he was in. I said like when they were role playing booksellers, and he said, "Here's a book that you should buy because it's blue. It has a blue cover." And you're like, "Yeah, cool. These books are yellow. There's something about these two colors." Okay, somebody wanted to say something just now.
I did.
Yeah.
Because Jessica's story and about librarians who I think, if you Google librarians and homelessness or libraries, you find a lot of stories of librarians who had kids coming in who had nowhere else to go, who sat them down at a table and gave them books.
Mhm.
And I think
Yep.
librarians who do this are severely unrecognized in a way.
Yep.
Because it's huge.
That's a really good point. That was pointed out a few times. I read a few articles about the importance of libraries way beyond reading. It's really a community place for all sorts of other services, including a place also maybe kids find a place when there's a domestic violence situation, etc. So these public spaces are incredibly important. Yeah.
I kept finding them. My school had I was very lucky. I passed a scholarship and got a grant to go to an incredibly posh girls' school where I could learn Latin and Greek and all those wonderful things. And they had a wonderful library. It was a medieval building, and I could sit in the window seat and read Plato.
Mhm.
I don't know if anybody else has, but that stuff's worth reading.
I have read. I've
Completely fascinating.
absolutely. I haven't read Plato in the window, sitting in the window, but I read Plato. It's actually quite unbelievable how much Plato is in absolutely everything that you read. I'm on a Philip K. Dick binge at the moment, among other things, and it's all Plato basically. Uh, Judy says many homeless people find comfort in our local libraries. Yeah, because these are places. I mean, again, this is my hobby horse. Is the disappearance of public spaces that this is not a new phenomenon. This has been a project for decades. Jessica, this is really awesome. Thank you for sharing your story. This is pretty extraordinary, especially that you come from a family of non-readers.
Non-readers, yeah. And now I shall blatantly advertise my new book, which is in
Please.
2 weeks, and it is called "We Can't All Die Like Buddy Holly," and it's crime and murder, and all the links are in my profile there. How's that?
Can somebody find also the direct link to whatever
It's
wherever you buy
Amazon.
this thing?
I'm as happy
Amazon, the
as
evil
I'm
Amazon.
Amazon. Yeah, I'm
Oh my
Amazon.
God.
Yeah,
What kind of
yeah.
Jeff Bezos lover?
It's interesting because it all comes full circle, because one of the things I spend a heck of a lot of time now is trying to have the right cover, because if the cover's not right, the book won't sell.
Mhm.
That's so important. I'm glad to see everybody else loves libraries.
I hope that your cover is yellow. I'm trying to. We can't all die like Buddy Holly. We need the direct link because people are not willing to click through 3 links here. So I'm going to do all the work for you.
Oh, you good man.
I'm retrieving the link and I'm putting it here into the local thing. So you can buy this right now on Kindle for how much is it? 99, 199
Something like that, yeah.
pounds. Yep.
Yeah, it's on all of it. It's doing quite well actually. One of the things about the dreaded Zon, of course, is the read-throughs, and that if you're Kindle Unlimited, you can read it for free.
Mm-hmm.
But I get paid.
Oh,
So
I never knew how that works.
yeah,
Okay,
that's
that's
good.
good.
I've had 570 page reads, which is quite interesting.
Wow.
But it's yeah, it's a
Everybody,
funny little book. It's the first in a series, and I shall be around when I need a title for the next one, which has got a lot more drugs in it.
this is an awesome title. We Can't All Die Like Buddy Holly. This is a really, really cool title. The
It is
whodunit you will not solve.
Nobody
In-
solved it.
Interesting, but the author that you're claiming is you has a different name. But we
She
won't get
does.
into that. Yeah.
She
Do you
does.
have split personality issues there?
Well, my urban fiction is as Jessica, and my other books are in my own name.
Mhm.
It's all part of the marketing strategy, which is very tiring. But yeah, covers are a big deal. Covers and blurb and all that. But I should be around, guys, for the next title for the book, which will feature the Bob Dylan concert in Seville in 2019.
Damn.
I
Is there
know.
all is there going to be like a Frank Zappa concert at some point in one of your books? We
Could
can't
be.
all die like Frank Zappa. Well, that wouldn't work because he died of prostate cancer. Okay, that's
The
not really.
Day the Music Died is the one that you can't touch
Mm.
because you can use book titles, but you can't use lyrics. You'll get sued if you use lyrics. And The Day the Music Died, which is actually called American Pie.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a problem one. Yeah, February the 4th, if I remember rightly, the day he died. It's yeah, it's an interesting story, that one too. I shall shut up, Drax. I've said
And my
enough.
friends, I have to brutally wrap today very tightly because I'm not wearing this outfit for shits and giggles. I'm wearing this because I'm invited to a party where I might actually bring you guys along. So I'm gonna go back on stage. Jessica, thank you. Big applause for Jessica, and I'm gonna wrap it up and want to read some more of the comments that came in. Um, thank you for sharing your story, Jessica. And let me scroll back through the comments. We have so many people here. This is amazing. Um, Panther has a book reading planned. You didn't tell us. Why didn't you read here, Panther? This was all about reading. I was like, tell us your story. Read. Um, Here, Pantera has a comment. Library from earlier. Library was present in my life as well. I started with a few encyclopedias and animal-related books that were gifted to me to my parents by my parents, but then things happened and reading became an escape from real life. So I found pleasure in fantasy and sci-fi, and so since I was not able to get them on my own on a regular basis, I started to visit the local library, read everything Asimov within 2 weeks, and I was a guest there so often that in time I was treated as part of staff by librarians fixing their only computer. That's awesome. Helping with categorizing books and so on. Panther then adds here, finds it sad to see libraries moving to phones, tablets, actual books to hold places to read them are slowly vanishing. Yeah, because those places are also spaces to meet other people and such. Um, obviously we here in Second Life know how important it is to have a sense of presence and an embodiment and not just not just sort of a flat website or whatever. I mean, it's cool that you can check out stuff from the library in ebook format. I think that's pretty cool. but to meet together in person or as we do. I mean, I don't distinguish between going to the library, frankly, or being here with you guys. And this is sort of the another hobby horse. But anyway, I want to say super big thank you to everybody who came and shared, and all these new people. Shyla, can you do me a favor? Do you have the link to our group? Because we don't have the group invite thingy here. So all these new people here, Katrin, Danielle, Kia, Texander, Vula, and I apologize if I mispronounce your name, Jim Rain, that name rings a bell somehow. Vince, and well, Judy, I know Judy. Welcome to the Second Life Book Club. Today is our informal hangout. Shiloh also made a comment earlier that I wanted to address. It was hard reading that I didn't see. But anyways, please join the group, and in the group you will find a lot of information about the calendar and our guests. So we usually have a guest every week. Um, but there's also a break in the summer. I do need a little bit of a break. Um, I wanted to address here. I think Shiloh was saying something about pictures in books. I'm just going to throw up my opinion, and maybe we'll address this next time. Um, I think, as somebody who works in audiovisual media and who loves audiovisual media, I'm very opinionated about pictures in books. I think in the journey of a reader, you need to graduate, and somebody needs to guide you to graduate from picture books to books without pictures. This is absolutely necessary, in my opinion. This is not a commentary or a judgment against comic books, against graphic novels, or whatever. Not at all. This stuff can live in parallel in your enjoyment as an adult in this on the smorgasbord of offerings. But for a reader to as a young reader, if you want to guide that reader through the different steps, you need to make sure that this reader, as a parent, a guardian, a mentor, you need to make sure that this reader graduates from mastering books with pictures to mastering books with no pictures. So it's, again, to me, this is akin to going to the gym. And if you're going to the gym and you want to get fit, or whatever sport, you need to push yourself. You need to um, and you need to push yourself to exercise your imagination. Yes, Jessica, Dickens novels were illustrated. Dickens novels were also serialized in newspapers. There's all sorts of different formats. Um, Illustrations, I have nothing against books that are illustrated. The Never-Ending Story is illustrated. There's wonderful editions, but they should be complementary. I guess I'm talking about. Anyways, this is a nuanced discussion. I'm not against the occasional illustration in a book. And Shiloh is no longer here, so I don't know exactly what she was referring to. But my point is, if you're growing up, you have to move to more challenging forms. If you don't challenge yourself intellectually, I don't think I don't think that's a good thing. I mean, I'm not saying you always gotta be like, stressing out over like something like oh God, I gotta push myself all the time. No, you gotta kick back and relax as well. There's a push and pull, but if you don't challenge yourself in terms of intellectual pursuits, I don't know. I don't think that that's good. Willa says she loves the never-ending story. Um, and Willa is new here, so I'm not gonna say that the movie's garbage and the book is awesome. No, I'm not saying that anymore. I know that the movie is beloved. The movie was hated by the author. Michael Ende is one of the greatest German authors. I grew up with Michael Ende stories and books. Momo is another book that came out before the Neverending Story. If you love the movie, do yourself a favor, pick up the Neverending Story book and read it, because the Neverending Story is like Second Life. The movie has maybe, I don't know, 5% of what the book is. The book is if you envision them going through worlds, if you envision them basically going for like 10 hours through different crazy worlds, then you have the Neverending Story. Well, I'm talking about the book by Michael Ende, which is a genius. I'm not going to make a comment on the sequels, which are money-making endeavors that have nothing to do with the original intent of the book. The book is awesome. If Michael Ende were alive today, and he would be told that you could do a series, and he would be in charge of writing the screenplay, and it would be like Second Life, I know that Michael Ende would say, "I'll do it." He was enraged about where the movie went, and I completely understand him. If you read the book and you have this intention, what he created with this book, which is huge in scope, and you see the movie, it would, if you're the creator of this, it would totally hurt. I mean, because it's a complete misreading of the book. But I understand how the movie resonated, with especially folks in America. I totally understand. It was a phenomenon at the time. But pick up the book. Trust me, it is absolutely nuts. Pantera, I hope so. See, I think Pantera says at least the movie can spark the curiosity about the original material, so it does have some uses. Pantera is making a very good point. However, I'm very skeptical. Do a little sociological research, folks. This is your homework for next week. Ask people about Blade Runner if they like Blade Runner. Ask them about Blade Runner if they love it, and what did they think of the book. Here's my prediction: 90% of the people that 90% of the people who love Blade Runner, and keep it open, right? Let's not say Blade Runner original movie or the sequel. Just ask them, what did you think of the book? I trust me, 90%, 99% will either answer what book, what are you talking about? And then if you would answer with like, well, the book by Philip K. Dick, they will answer with, who the hell is Philip K. Dick? And that is depressing to me. And I know I sound like a cynical, get off my lawn old guy, okay? Vula Abby, thank you for coming, and come back. We do this every week, and we have awesome guests. They come from all over all of the spectrum. They come from all. It's super fascinating. We are here to discover awesome people. So like they come from fantasy young adult to next week. It's about South African literature, apartheid, and all sorts of things. So yeah. Anyway, we gotta go to the party. But yeah, stranger. It's incredibly sad. Um, so let's just hope. Let's end with this. Let's end with what Pantera was saying, that the movie can spark interest in the source material. Let's hope that this is the case, that it amplifies the source material. In the case of Blade Runner, for example, there's also, I mean, they repackage Do Androids Dream Over Like a Sheep. They put a little Harrison Ford on the cover, so that stuff is definitely cool. So in that sense, Pantera is correct that if in the marketing scheme they do this kind of stuff, I think that that's cool, because then people go like, wow, there's a book. Oh, the dude is Philip K. Dick. Oh, let me check out his other stuff. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, so that's cool. But I don't know. I'm just so cynical. I'm thinking like nobody cares, right? Well, Pantera, yeah, but you are a primed reader. See, this is what I was talking about earlier, because I love these novelizations. So that's a different thing. If the movie's an original and they write and they commission they commission the novelization, and they tie that in, like in the case of Star Wars, the original Star Wars novelization was written by Alan Dean Foster, who is one of the, Is he still alive? Somebody look up Alan Dean Foster, please, because there was also a huge hashtag campaign with Disney not paying these guys. It's a whole nother story. Oh yeah, actually Stephen King is on the record saying a few times. I think I saw a Stephen King video where he goes like, yeah, people go like, Stephen King, is that the guy from the movies? They don't even know that he's a writer. So, anyways, yeah. So Alan Dean Foster, look up Alan Dean Foster, folks. There was a big campaign. Cory Doctorow was at the helm of this campaign to help Alan Dean Foster because when Disney bought the Star Wars franchise, whatever the deal was, they stopped paying royalties to some of these people, including Alan Dean Foster, who again wrote the original Star Wars novelization commissioned by George Lucas at the time. And these people are not rich. Alan Dean Foster is amazing, and these people are scraping by. It's a disgrace. So, anyways, did somebody say? Isn't there a party going on? Why am I dressed like this? Okay. Honestly, if somebody wants to go to a party, please direct message me, and I will gently ask the birthday gal, Aziza Wolf. Of course, it's not. I cannot just invite people and crash the party. But please DM me. Feel free. Don't be shy. This is Aziza. I made this video about her, and let's wrap up the show. Uh, don't stop filming quite yet because I need to put the screen up here. Karina Shurik is up next week. Karina Shurik, an amazing, amazing person. I had a wonderful onboarding with her. Next week, 12 o'clock, Karina Shurik. She was 27 years old when she married 69-year-old Andre Brink, who uh, oh my God, Pantera, can you DM me how to pronounce her name? I'm afraid to ask her. She's so nice. And I onboarded her. We did tests and everything. It was awesome. And I forgot to ask her. Now I'm afraid to ask her. So Karina Shishurek, maybe. Okay, Pantera is sending me this how to pronounce Polish name. So Karina is a Polish scholar and author, and she married Andre Brink with a 42-year-old age gap. Um, and they were married for 10 years. It was it was love at first sight. It's a wonderful love story. It's absolutely amazing. Monkey, thank you for putting in this. It's just an amazing person, and her story with how she met him and how they just created this life together is so inspiring. His death was, uh, although he was older, was surprising. It was tragic. And she wrote a memoir, and she also put out a book of her love letters um, with him, and the letters are amazing. It goes to show you how the original immersive world is actually the letter, I guess, right? So let's wrap up the show. See you all next week, 12 o'clock. Thank you and goodbye. Y'all.